Toyota isn't listening to their customers as much as they ought to be, and this comparison proves that. I'll include a link to the Warner Ineos' website in the description down below. They're providing us with this Grenadier. Let's get right into the comparison. This week's giveaway highlight is a 57 Chevy Resto mod with over 600 horsepower. If you happen to be interested, use code BHC or click the link in the description down below or in the pinned comment. Any donation, $25 or more, will give you 4x bonus entries into this giveaway. Now, powering the 300 series is a twin-turbo 3.4-liter V6 hybrid that goes through a 10-speed. It produces 457 horsepower, 583 pound-feet of torque. I've been averaging 17 to 18 miles per gallon, roughly. Now, powering the Grenadier is a much more simplistic 3-liter turbo inline 6 that goes through an 8-speed. It produces 282 horsepower, 331 pound-feet of torque, so yeah, it's down on power. Fuel economy, however, is pretty much the same. In my Grenadier, I averaged 17 to 18 miles per gallon. Man, the Lexus sounds like a tin can. The Grenadier sounds solid when you close the hood. 500,000 subscribers, we're getting close. Help me out. Now look at the style on the Grenadier. Simplistic and beautiful and functional. For example, you've got these flat fenders here so that you can put checker plates on it and then you can stand on it if you want, or just put weight on it in general. And then look at this upgraded bumper. When I say upgraded, this is a stock bumper, but it's not like this crazy plasticky thing. It's actually something that can take an impact. And then let's compare that to the only real Land Cruiser we get here in the US market. So you can see here with the hood, for example, you definitely can't stand on this. I mean, you'd bend that very, very quickly. But yeah, I mean, look at the lights and then this massive grille, over stylized, and you do have underbody protection, but the bumper itself, if you hit that, you're breaking it. And so it's kind of funny because most of us Toyota enthusiasts, we want something like this, simple, boxy with the design, practical, but this is what we get. Now the Grenadier comes stock with smaller tires. You can fit 33s on this with the stock suspension, and there's obviously a lot of aftermarket lift kits and everything for these now, so you can do even bigger tires. The LX can fit 33s. These are 33s. You can't go bigger than that with the LX without cutting, and you definitely can't lift it because of the active height control. Now the LX has side steps. No rock rails or anything are available. The Grenadier, you can get rock rails. This one just doesn't have them. And this leads us to the side of the Grenadier. You can see we've got a raised air intake, again, practical for off-road use. And just look at the beautiful, simple, boxy design that creates a lot of interior space, and it just looks cool. Now this is where I will give the Lexus credit. The design is aerodynamically efficient for a big SUV, and you still have pretty good space inside when it comes to the headroom and all of that. One thing I will knock it for, though, is you have to raise it up suspension-wise for it to actually look cool. And yes, this is currently in the H2 setting, so the highest setting. If it is in neutral, or normal rather, and I'll put it there later, you guys will see it looks like a pipsqueak next to the Grenadier. Now the Grenadier has this double door situation, which again, it's going to be reliable long-term because it's not power anything. It's also cool. And the storage area, look at this. Easy to clean. You've got all these attachment points. With that boxy design, you've got tons of vertical space. The seats sadly do not fold down flat. That is one downside. But yeah, every time you close this, I mean, it's just simplistic. I like it. Now the Lexus, on the other hand, has the hybrid battery, which raises the load floor up a bit, which means you have less vertical space. Definitely less than the Grenadier. Overall, the load floor on the Grenadier is lower, but this is a longer vehicle, so you have a little bit more horizontal space in the back. And then yeah, it's just a traditional SUV power. Now with the Lexus, the spare tire is underneath the vehicle, which means it is easy to get caked up with mud and stuff when you take this thing off-road. And then you've got a pretty big overhang in the back, just like the front, so that's not practical, and the back bumper's just plastic. The Grenadier, on the other hand, has moved the spare tire to a place that actually makes logical sense. And again, you've got a real bumper back here that can take an impact, and you've got a great departure angle. So on one side, we've got practicality. On the other side, we have modern whatever is happening over there with the Lexus. Now the seating position in the Grenadier is great. I actually have quite a bit of space. I also have some vents back here, an outlet, USB ports. And these seats, they're firm, but you know, easy to clean, and I think they're comfortable. And then again, with the boxy design, we've got plenty of headroom. Now the LX is not uncomfortable, but the seats sit a little bit lower because there's not as much space because of the packaging, so my knees get pushed up a bit. I do at least get heated and ventilated seats here in the back. I got my own climate zone for either side, some ventilation. And the seats themselves are definitely a lot fancier with the trim. I don't know why it's not focusing. There you go. I mean, even including the door panel trim. And headroom, there is just less headroom because it's less boxy. Now let's take a quick look at the front of the Grenadier. First off, look at this steering wheel. Definitely cool with the style. And that means you've got great visibility too, because there's no gauge cluster in the Grenadier, so you just see right over the hood. Everything is in this little center screen. And again, it's not crazy techy. You have a backup camera, right? It is a touch screen, but everything's just straightforward with the use. And you got tons of physical controls, including an inclinometer with compass and everything. But yeah, everything. You've got these nice physical controls with a nice tactile feel to them. I do have the BMW shifter, which is kind of funny. But look at that. To do the drive line, right? To put it into low, to lock the center differential. It's this nice physical knob. And, you know, you've got a little center console, more USBs, by the way. Nice trim there on the top. And you've got these windows that make it so it feels more open. I actually prefer those to a sunroof any day of the week. Tons of auxiliary switches. You've got diff locks front and rear. Again, center, front, rear, it's got it all. You've got off-road modes, and again, the cockpit style, I think, adds to the fun with the Grenadier. Now, the Lexus has very nice materials. You can see the style, though, is more kind of like modern, mundane. Is a good way to put it. You have a traditional gauge cluster, but it's digital, right? But I'm saying it's in the traditional space. You do have good visibility over the hood, so I'm not going to knock it for lack of visibility. But what I will say, heads-up display, there's just so much text in your face, and you have another screen here and another one down below. A nice thing about this, though, is it does have a 360 camera, good resolution on that. And you do still get some physical controls, but piano black, so like gonna get scratched up over time very easily. And then everything's like all over the place. So for example, that is for the center diff lock. This is for the height adjustable suspension. But then the MTS is over here, but then the driveline's over here, and then the diff locks for the front and the rear are over there, right? It's not like this seamless thing where the Grenadier, it's like stuff, and the Grenadier. Also just a regular sunroof, never use it. And then you got more tech, camera, rear view mirror. Now, if you look underneath the vehicles, the Grenadier is heavy duty, just like a Land Cruiser, and actually maybe even more heavy duty. The Grenadier starts at a bit over $70,000 because it's simplistic and bare bones. Whereas the 300 series in the US market starts at like $114,000 because you can only get a Lexus. And because it has tons of bells and whistles. Let's drive them. Let's set off in the Grenadier first, and then we'll drive the 300 series, the LX 700H Overtrail. And I think that that is probably one of the best vehicles to actually compare to the Grenadier, because, you know, obviously comparisons to Ford and Jeep, but Ford and Jeep don't really build HD off-roaders with the Bronco and the Wrangler, right? They're very capable off-road, but they're just not heavy duty. They're not heavy duty at all. Even the 392 Wrangler and the Bronco Raptor aren't heavy duty. Now this is, oh, I forgot the steering. This is old school. So you actually have to like do all the work with the steering, for example. And it's solid axles front and rear. So you're gonna feel a little bit more. The handling's gonna be a little bit kind of tippy side to side. Now again, this is a stock setup. There's tons of aftermarket support. And that's one thing to note about a Grenadier versus, you know, the 300 series we get in the US market. The 300 series is gonna be very limited with modification because of all the electronics and because of that hydraulic suspension. Now I love that hydraulic suspension. You get extra height, it's comfortable, it's great. But the downside again is if you do want to modify, you can't really do that. Whereas this is just coil sprung solid axle, easiest suspension setup to modify on the planet. The power feels great with this. It's smooth. It's very smooth. And if you keep this with reasonably sized tires, again, I did 285 by 70 by 18, so it's just under a 33. Biggest tire you can fit without any sort of rubbing. And it felt great with the power, just like this feels great. And it was still smooth. I mean, again, you don't struggle. Like, this weighs 6,400 pounds. It's more than, it weighs more than that LX. And if you're wondering where the weight's coming in, because the LX has like double pane windows and all this luxury and everything, the extra weight is the fact that this is like a thicker frame. It's more heavy duty. Now, you are gonna get noise, right? So first off, This does not have acoustic glass. It's just regular windows. So you're gonna get more road noise. And then you are gonna get some noise up top. Now for a boxy vehicle, it's not bad at all. And it's also one of those things where, like, if you have the radio off, you're gonna kind of notice it. But like if you have music going on, it'll be like a little whistle, you know, that you'll kind of hear. It's not even a whistle. You just kind of hear it, but it's not bad at all. I mean, this is comfortable for what this is, right? Everyone calls this agricultural. It's very comfortable, I think. I think the seats are comfortable. I think the suspension on road's comfortable. The only thing that this really doesn't do too well is roads that have a lot of little rocks in them off-road. You feel every little bit, but there's now aftermarket suspension systems that deal with that. So the Grenadier, I think this is what most Toyota people actually want. And to prove that, we'll go pop into the LX and see what that provides in terms of the driving experience. Well, first off, we're not going to be driving on road in H2, so we're going to drop the suspension. Now, the hydraulic suspension is actually pretty quick to lower. It does take a little bit longer to race. It's not that long, though. It's a benefit of hydraulics versus air suspension if you're going to do adjustable suspension. So yeah, now we look a lot dorkier because we're lower to the ground. It really looks good. Well, I'm like, not great, but it looks good when it's in the top, when it's in H2. But yeah, in normal, it doesn't look so good. It kind of looks more minivan-like. But the benefit, right, is lower to the ground, so lower center of gravity, better handling. It's not like it's just all downside. There is some benefit to it. Now this has electric power steering, independent front suspension, solid rear axle. Body and frame though, like the Grenadier. But yeah, I mean, this is way more direct, right? The steering with the Grenadier, with the recirculating ball rack, right, kind of goes all over the place, but it also, it's a big part of the experience in my opinion. This is just, it's sharp, right? You turn the wheel and the car just turns. Kind of reminds me of when you compare like a Porsche to, let's say, like an Aston Martin, or like Jaguar, for example. It's like the Porsche is like super razor sharp, everything's perfect, and it kind of makes it boring in a sense. Whereas the other ones are like not perfect, and it's kind of like the Grenadier. It's like, it's not, the steering is far from perfect, but it makes it exciting. And that steering is really good off-road, by the way, like, because you don't get kickback or anything like that. You don't get kickback with the electric rack either. Well, it's minimal. It's minimal if you get any. Now the torque is obviously a lot greater on this, but here's the deal. Even though I'm going up to much lower RPMs before shifting, because I have literally, I mean, like 331 versus 583. I mean, for 200 pound-feet of torque more. The V6, you can feel the choppiness of it. The inline 6 is just smooth all the way up to redline. This, even at the bottom end, you can kind of feel it chopping a little bit. So although there's way more torque, the overall delivery just not as smooth. It's just not as smooth. Now, believe it or not, the suspension in this, although comfortable, I don't get in this and go, oh man, this is so much better than the Grenadier. This is so much more comfortable than the Grenadier. I go, this is comfortable. It's a lot quieter, that's for sure, with the acoustic glass. It's a lot quieter. And also, you know, the sloped roof design with this, you're not going to get all the wind noise. But there's still wind noise. It's just not as loud. It's just not as loud. So, here's my conclusion that I kind of brought up earlier. Toyota thinks we want this as and I think I'm a Toyota enthusiast, right? I owned a 5th gen 4Runner. I have a 200 series Land Cruiser that I'm never gonna sell. They think we want this. We don't. Now the Grenadier, right? I don't think I want exactly that. All right, I love the Grenadier, but in terms of a Toyota, it's like, no, I want kind of like what the 200 series and the 100 series were, where it was some luxury, but it still was more basic, and you know, it wasn't over. Even the 300 series, like the Toyota 300 series Land Cruiser, the Toyota version, even that's over stylized, in my opinion. It's more understated than this, that's for sure, but it's still kind of over stylized. It's like I want something that kind of flies under the radar. That's why I love my 200. Most people don't know what it is. Most people think it's just a Highlander. I love that. So it's like, that's what I want. I want understated, and I want luxury, but I don't want a ton of tech. This is overkill. So it's like not quite the Grenadier, but definitely not this. And that's where Toyota should be, is kind of in between. And, you know, I really hope that Ineos, they're doing well. And I hope that they continue to do well, because I hope it shows other automakers, like, that's what people want. Like, we don't, like, everyone's now experienced this. And I think we've all kind of collectively decided that some of this is nice, but I don't need it. And I don't want to pay for it. So let me know if you go Grenadier or 300, but I think value-wise, the Grenadier's, it's a much better value. You're getting just as durable of a build, if not even a better build, for less money and tons of aftermarket support. Whereas with this, like, if you're an off-road enthusiast like I am, there's not a lot that you can do with this unless you're willing to spend literally tens of thousands of dollars.